Hey everyone, welcome back to Ontario Gardening. We are continuing on with our quail series here, and I am now going to show you how to set up a brooder. And it's not even just how to set up a brooder. This is specific to quail because they have a couple of different requirements than, say, chickens or any other poultry. So a lot of the times people are like, oh, I've got a chicken set up, I'm good. And there's a couple of things that you need to note for quail specifically that are going to help you along your journey, essentially so they don't die. Quail are so much more fragile than chickens and little chicks. They're tinier, they just eat differently, and they actually grow faster, so they need special requirements when it comes to the brooder. So I'm going to put a checklist down below when I'm finished the video and kind of just talk in the comments about what we discussed here in bullet points so that you can kind of see it and it will make your life a little bit easier. So the first thing that you are looking for is an appropriate brooder container. So the one major difference between quail and chicks, like chicken chicks, is the fact that they grow so fast. So they are going to be in and out of this brooder within 4 to 5 weeks. They are fully feathered, usually at 4 weeks. And with that being said, and that being the case of them producing so fast and growing so fast, they can fly within the first 2 weeks. So because of that, you really have to be diligent in the brooder setup and making sure, one, it's going to be tall enough so that they're not like jumping out as you're trying to clean and feed and water. And two, there is some sort of top to them so that they can't get out. So I'm pretty sure it goes without saying we can use a tote or wood or even a cardboard box, whatever, but we don't want to completely cover it with no ways for them to breathe. They will smother and die. I'm sure that's common sense, but I just wanted to put that out there that you can't just put a lid on it because they're not going to survive. So what we've actually done is we have taken a chicken wire situation and we have molded it to the top. This allows them to breathe and ventilation. I can see everything. And we actually cut a hole out in here. The reason we did this is so we put our food and water down here and it's an easy in, easy out for the first couple of weeks. Once they start flying around, we just cover this with a box, but it makes it so that it's a door almost and it's an easy in, easy out. So this is a perfect situation and only costs a couple of dollars between the tote and the lid itself. So we also did this because when we very first set up our brooder, we had a heat lamp, and this also helps so that if the heat lamp were to fall or anything like that, it wasn't crushing anything or starting a fire. So this is a good option, just something to throw out there. You can use, this is actually a hardware cloth. It's not chicken wire, but you could use chicken wire. So cool, we've got our tote, thing number one. So number two is the bedding that you're putting inside. So we do, for the first 24 hours, we just do paper towel. And we only do that for 24 hours until they get settled and set up and they find their trail of food to their food and water. And then after that, we take the paper towel out. And the reason we do that is super important. We actually lost a chick to something called spraddle leg or spray leg. Basically, you want your chicks to be standing on their 2 legs. And when you put a slippery surface down, such as paper towel, it makes it really hard for them to stand erect and they start doing this. And once they start doing this and their legs become spraddled, a lot of the times that needs correction. And we can go over that once in a separate video once the chicks are actually here. But basically, they're doing this and they're unable to stand up and their legs have to be pretty much medically corrected in order for them to be able to stand up. And if they don't stand up and their legs stay like that, unfortunately, it's a cull situation. Or in the case that happened with our chick, its legs spraddled, it wasn't able to get up and it got stomped. So either way, very sad situation. So we do paper towels for the first 24 hours to get them used to and situated into their brooder. And then we move on to pine shavings. We just get those at our feed store. You can get them in a big cube, and we change those pine shavings every couple days just to ensure cleanliness and keep the smell down because they stink. And our chicks are actually just about to be hatched. So when they are hatched, I will show you the final setup just at the end of this video. I just don't have any chicks at the moment to show you, but they go in lockdown today, so we will be here soon. So we've got our container, we've got our bedding situation. The next thing for you to decide is how you're going to heat these guys. So basically quail, because they are so small, if you're using a heat plate, that's awesome. We got just one on Amazon, and you are looking to put the heat plate pretty far down in comparison to, again, chickens. You want their backs to be able to, so if you've got your heating plate, you want their backs to kind of be able to touch the back of the heating plate. So a lot of the times we put it on an angle like this. Putting it on an angle like this where the legs are, and I'll show you you know what, let me just show you. So see what I mean about how I have it on a little bit of a slant here? This is going to allow for my little chick to come in and put his back up against it here, but then come up here and still be able to keep a little bit warm, but not physically touching. This is basically mimicking the underbelly of a mama. So the general rule of thumb in terms of temperature specs when it comes to your quail, and it's easier to kind of navigate with a heat lamp. So we are using this because it is safer for us. We leave the house at nighttime to do shift work. So a heat lamp for us is not necessarily something we want to do. We are leaving it unattended for just too long of a period. But if you are staying at home all the time and you have the means to kind of keep a much closer eye on it, or the ability to stop a fire if it starts, or if the bulb decides to spontaneously combust, which they are known to do, you're home to actually take care of business. We're not, so this is the safer option for us. But the moral of the story is, if you're using a heat lamp, it is a little bit easier to navigate the temperature. And that's solely because you lift it a lot easier than you do with this. But the general rule of thumb is to start them off around 95 degrees underneath your heat plate. We tried to temperature gauge when we first got the heat plate. It just didn't really work out the best. It did work better with the heat lamp. But 95, and then you want to lower the temperature by 5 degrees every few days until eventually you're able to remove the heat source altogether. And you do that once they are fully feathered. Don't be taking it away until they are fully, completely feathered, and that includes the little feathers on their heads too. But if we're being honest, and we're just gonna put this in here and start setting this up, the best way to gauge how your quail are doing, if they're too hot or if they're too cold, is to keep an eye on them. If you're looking in your brooder and you're seeing that all of them are huddled under here and they're not moving, they're not coming out for food or water, then it's probably too cold even in the whole environment, and you need to address that. If you're finding that they're all huddled at the back of the plate, and no one's moving up to the front of the plate, just kind of lower your plate a little bit. If you're finding that no one's under the heat plate at all and they're all huddled in this corner near the water, or they're trying to escape the heat, it's because they're too hot. And that usually happens way more with a heat lamp than it does with this, because the heat is localized to one spot, whereas the heat lamp protrudes all of this heat and it can heat up the entire area. Another reason why this is just a little bit nicer. But keep an eye on them, keep an eye on their moving patterns, and you can really get to know your quail and their needs just by watching them for a little bit. Watch them for a few minutes and check them out. So you've got your brooder, you've got your heat source, you've got your bedding checked off. Now let's talk about food and water requirements, because those are a little bit different than chicks as well. So quail typically, when you go to your feed store, will have 2 types of game bird feeder, and that's what you're looking for, is game bird feed. And you are looking for the game bird starter for them, not the layers. The layers will come once they are mature enough to start laying eggs, around 11 to 12 weeks. So we're starting them off with game bird food. Now, my biggest piece of advice is to grind their food for at least the first week. I have seen so many people lose quail because they don't grind their food. The quail are not big enough when they are first born. They are like this big to digest the size of the crumbles that you will get at your feed store. It really just doesn't even matter where you get them. They're all the same. They're too big for them to digest, meaning they won't eat, and they will all die from starvation and malnutrition. I have seen that so many times. People will come online and be like, my quail are all dying. What's wrong with them? And you notice this big pile of massive crumble in the corner, and it's like, well, they probably haven't eaten since you've put them in there a week ago. So that is the first tip. I'm going to show you, we just grind it up in the magic bullet, and we do that for the first week for sure, at least. We find that the best feeder, and you could put it in a bowl, they're going to find their way in, but one of the best feeders for chicks is a style like this, because they're able to just kind of put their head in and get out, and they're not able to get in here and like defecate and urinate in these as easier as like a big open bowl. So I will kind of just show you what the powder looks like. You don't need to grind it down into like a flour consistency, but you want to just, you can even do it by hand, but just make sure that you're not doing those big crumbles. So see, this is what it looks like before it's crumbled. That is way too big for their little mouths. So I've gone ahead and used my magic bullet, and we have it ground up, and now they will not choke and die. So in best practice, once we're done filling our first feed for them, what we do is we keep the food closer to the heat source than the water. And for the first time that they're in here, we trail the food from the heat source to the food so that they kind of learn how to get there. We really have to baby them because they are quite dumb if we're being honest. Now when it comes to the water, same thing. You have to take precautions. We keep our water away from the heat source. It forces them to leave the source and seek out water. And as the same with chicks, if you have a large dish or a large mouthed feeding dish, which is not this, it'll be bigger than this, you need marbles or they will drown. They not might drown, they will drown. So you have to use marbles for the first couple weeks until they are strong enough and big enough to not flop over into the water and pass. I got this from my local feed store. It is specifically for baby chicks, and it has a very small mouth lip on it. So essentially taking away the need to have marbles. I already had this piece. It's literally this bottom piece. What do they call this? Is there a... it's just this one's actually specifically a quail base, it says. So this is why. It's so that they aren't tempted to go swimming and pass away in the water. So I am able to put my water source just away from the food, but like far enough away from the heat source that they can go seek out the water. Now, when I do put these chicks in the very first day, right from the incubator, I'm going to dip their beak into the water and then set them down so that they know that the water's there. I will show you that at the end of the video, just so you get an idea. So, going over the checklist again, and one last thing to note before I do. Quail, once the night falls, and if you have a heat lamp, you don't need any supplemental lighting because that heat lamp is going to illuminate strong enough for the quail to see what they're doing at nighttime. If you don't have that, plug in a nightlight or leave a little lamp running for the first week that they're alive. And we do that so that at nighttime, once the lights are out, they still have a little bit of light to find their food and to find their water. Because when I say that they're dumb, I mean when the lights go down at nighttime, and quail eat significantly more than chicks and chickens do. So when they're looking for food and water, what happens at nighttime for the first week while they're trying to get their bearings in their brooder is they can get lost and not find their way back to the heat source because, yes, they are just that silly. So what we do at nighttime is we just leave a nightlight running for the first week, and then we unplug it, and then they get used to their surroundings. So it's really just them getting used to what's going on and figuring it out. So checklist, we have got a brooder, and this is actually on backwards. this right here. My bad. Because I don't know if you can see what's happening here. They'll jump right up here and then right up here because they're just crazy. Okay, that's better. So, checklist. And again, I will put this down below. We've got our brooder box with an appropriate lid where they can't jump out after the first couple weeks because they will. We've got a heat source and a way to monitor the heat source, whether that be where a temperature gauge or whatever underneath, or we're just keeping an eye on them. We've got food that we are going to grind up for the first at least week. We're going to trail the food for the first day just so they figure it out. We've got our water source, and our water is going to have marbles in it if it's not a small lip so that they don't drown. And then we've got whatever we are putting on the bottom as a bedding source. So we do paper towel for the first 24 hours until they get their bearings, and then we switch to just generic pine shavings. And if I didn't note this already, and I don't think I did, make sure your pine shavings are at least like a medium coarse. You don't want to put in a very fine fluff in there because they'll eat it, and again, they will pass away. So this is pretty much all you need for a brooder setup. I'm going to show you when we put these chicks in how we kind of set them up and whatnot, how we keep an eye on them. And don't forget that lighting for the first week at nighttime so that they don't get lost and scared. And I think that is all I wanted to note to you about the brooding. And again, the quail grows so much faster than chicks. So you're going to have to really keep an eye out. Like, we're talking feathers in the first week or two. That's why they can fly. So we're just keeping an eye on things. We're starting with that game bird starter, and you keep that until you put them outside in their full sexual maturity and they're laying. That's a game bird starter. And that's all I think I really need to tell you about this. So let's go wait for these chicks to hatch. And I will show you what they look like in our brooder. Okay, friends, it's hatch day. Well, it's been a couple days since hatch day. We are moving our quail over to the brooder now. So we're going to show you just quickly how that's done. Grab yourself a little box or a basket or whatever, and we're going to get them out of here and put them in. Do that very gently, very carefully, and we're going to move swiftly because it's nice and warm in here and it's going to be cold for them out here. Okay, we're just going to go in, and you want to dip their little beaks inside the water so that they know that the water is there, and then you can let them go. And he's probably going to go right into it. And we want to do that with every single one so that they know where that water is. So now it's just going to take them a minute to figure their lives out, and you're going to want to keep an eye on them for a minute. Make sure that they are finding the food, finding the water, and most importantly, finding that heat source. Right now they're just tweaking out. So if you have to go in there, if you have to go in and kind of guide them to the heat, then that's what you have to do. It's a possibility. They're kind of simpletons, so, and it's really important that after a few hours, maybe even overnight, I probably, by the time I go to work tonight, will switch these guys to shavings underneath. So again, they're not walking around on this slippery surface the whole time. But as you can see, they've already figured out the food. We're going to help these ones out over here who are just standing here squawking. Hello, child. Yes, we have new birdie friends. So I'm going to put the lid on mine just because if this ever was to knock off the table, they have some sort of a fighting chance. You're going to see they have some really gross poops at first. That is normal. It's basically getting rid of everything that they've ingested while in the egg. It's similar to like a baby. So some have found the heat. Some have found the food. Just waiting for them to find the water, and we are all good. That's why we dip their beaks in so that they can find it. But yeah, that is transferring, setting up, getting ready for having them in the brooder. So follow us on the next journey. The next video is going to be chatting about how, once they are feathered, how to sex them. So that'll be in quite a few weeks from now, but just keep your eye out for that anyways. We will talk to you soon.